Thank you all for coming. This presentation and this panel discussion was put together by Janelle, who at the last minute couldn't get off work. So she asked us to fill in for her, and so we're going to do the best we can with that. We're going to talk about moderation, moderation in English Packers, of course. And we have three excellent panelists that are going to talk to us about their thoughts on what moderation means to them and how it applies to our breed. But first I'm going to go through a brief presentation that's going to provide some foundation for the discussion to follow. So bear with me on that, and I'm assisted here by Sue Dwelly and Marissa Clark, who's going to also participate in the presentation. So with that, let me just start. If I ask each and every one of you what moderation meant, most of you, I think, would say, well, probably no extremes or something like that. And actually, that's what Webster would say. Moderation, the quality of being moderate, or avoidance of extremes. I find the word moderation always interesting when you try to define it, because it's not what it is, it's what it isn't. So that's how I try to think about that. Is as we go through the discussion, you'll see in a lot of cases it's not what it is, but it's what it isn't when we're talking about moderation. Sue? Okay. Sticky finger. So, how does that translate into our breed? Well, moderation is mentioned specifically 5 times in our standard. It's implied in many other cases. And you can just start with the opening paragraph of our standard. He is above all a dog of balance, both standing and moving, without exaggeration in any part. And the whole is worth more than the sum of the parts. So again, the implication there is that we have a moderate dog. Starts right off the bat in our standard. Again, I'll sort of say this. What it says is it's not what it is, what it isn't, without exaggeration. Now, as with any dog, that as a working dog, form follows function. We say that frequently, but in this case, our breed, he's alive, with energy. His gait is powerful. He's capable of covering ground effortlessly, and penetrating dense cover to flush game. You're not going to see a dog that has extremes that can do that efficiently. So again, the implication in our standard is moderation, a moderate dog. The dog of balance, no one feature overpowering another. Round, softly contoured in appearance, with no sharp angles or lines. You notice this bitch. No sharp angles or lines. Moderate curves, and note the depth of body. Moderate, very, very moderate. Okay, I'm going to toss the mic over to Marissa. No, no.
So if you ask yourself to train your eye to see the moderate dog, the one on the left, obviously, in comparison to the one on the right, has that moderation that you're looking for. There's the correct balance, the type that is required in our breed, and you need to understand the essential points of that measurement. So the English Cocker is slightly taller than long. And you can see where you're measuring these two animals, and the one that's on the right-hand side appears very tall, leggy, certainly longer. It is. So from the points of measurement, from the withers to the set onto the tail, he is a slightly taller than long animal. The elbow is midpoint between the withers and the ground, and the breed is neither leggy nor low on leg. what are your moderate ankles? You have the ideal 90-degree shoulder formed by the scapula and the upper arm. The front legs are located under the body rather than on the forward most end of it. And the rear ankle and the length should match. The ankles, front and rear, should match, obviously. And you can see where the foot is located under the dog to support that dog's weight. What are your moderate ankles? So you have balance, being that the rear angulation is moderate to the front, obviously, and more importantly, you've got an animal that appears to be a very nice rounded animal. Looks like it's got a nice body to it. Again, there's no exaggeration, no extreme like that on the right. Your rear angulation is moderate. The perpendicular line that's dropped from the furthest projection of the buttock to the ground. It should land directly in front of the rear foot, and the femur and the tibia are equal in length. And here we go on something. We've got a slightly sloping top line. I'm going to say that again. Slightly sloping top line. If you have too much, you obviously are in the word of exaggeration as opposed to moderation. And you've got the whole balance of the animal that's been thrown off. We want a compact and well-knit dog. He has a slightly sloping back. And his tail, it's not carried, it is carried either level or with the gently rounded croup. So your English Cocker is going to cover ground effortlessly and with the extension both the front and the rear, and that is appropriate to his angulation. Again, moderate angles would allow for this animal to reach and drive in a very effortless and appropriate manner. If the dog is overextending in the front or the rear or overreaching underneath, as the dog is on the right, and I am asking you to really look at that, then it is indicative of an unbalanced animal, which is causing wasted motion. And this dog, maybe he's going to be a sprinter, but he's not a long-distance runner. And certainly these animals are working in the field, so they need to be able to work all day. They need to be constructed in order to do their job. And also note the front clipped foot and the curled hind toes and the crossed feet underneath, which is overreaching on the dog on the right. And the amount of substance or the height that the dog carries contributes to the overall harmonious make and shape of our correct cockers. This breed has a frame and carries the muscle and weight of a muscle. Let's try that one again, guys. This breed has the frame and carries the muscle of a weightlifter rather than that of a long-distance runner. The English Cocker is a solidly built dog, and he has a lot of bone and substance, or as much bone and substance as you can possibly put into this nice compact package. But you are not asking for a cloddy or coarse dog. Again, moderate, moderate. So remember, the purpose of your English Cockers here. They were developed to hunt in dense cover and to retrieve relatively heavy game. And that does indeed require your strength, your balance, and above all, moderation. Again, no extremes.
All right, now we're going to invite our panelists to speak to us first. We lost our technology wizard here for a second. I'll just go ahead and introduce the first panelist that's going to talk to us is Andrew Jones. You may not notice, but we very subtly have a panelist from 3 different countries. So Andrew, of course, from England, Jenny from Canada, and Karen from the US. Andrew has shown and bred the Shenmore party-colored English Cockers with his wife Jane since 1985. Their first champion is a blue dog, show champion Shenmore Seeing Stars, gained her title in 1995, going on to win a total of 10 challenge certificates, and along the way being runner-up for Cocker of the Year in 1995. Andrew first judged Cockers in 1991. He's judged regularly in the UK at the championship level, and was honored and delighted to judge bitches at the Cocker Spaniel Club Champion Show in 2014. He's also judged regularly around the world, officiating in Netherlands, Germany, Italy, Sweden, England, Czech Republic, Ireland, Australia, and the United States. So, Andrew, tell us your thoughts.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you, Marissa. You see one dog here, but I'll perhaps just say a little bit about our brief. Our brief has been to find 3 dogs that help us define moderation, and actually I think maybe bring some of the words to life. You heard about a little bit of our international background. I'm trying to do with the dogs I give you. One of these dogs is from the UK, it happens to be this one. But I'm not to tell you that all the dogs in the UK are the best. You'll see one from the US, you will also see one from Australia. But we'll start with this young lady, Dawn. Many of you probably will have heard of Lynwater Dawn Shimmer. She comes from very famous Lynwater kennels. Sadly, Elizabeth McLean, who ran this kennel, died just 2 weeks ago. It was a very large, successful kennel, and probably at its heyday in the 90s and the 2000s, I think. Elizabeth had a background not just in dogs, but in horses, and she understood angulation. And I hope this photo of Dawn shows you. But I certainly remember my first visit to Lynwater Kennel. I went to a grooming room. They must have brought through, for me to go over, 40 or 50 cockers, starting at about 12 weeks, right through to 2 or 3, and every single one had the same angulation. And it's the angulation which Dawn shows you here. Beautiful. If it's not immediately apparent to you, just follow her front leg nearest to us, up the leg, and then carry forward the chest, and then up to the withers. You will see there almost the perfect 90-degree angle that's been described to you. If you then move to the back of the dog, you see the same angulation at the back of the dog as well. It's almost perfect balance, and it allowed her to move with perfect balance, but it actually makes her moderate. We use the phrase in the UK a lot of dog in a small package. So this is a dog of strength, compactness, but it's all small and it's neat. And this is what Dawn had. Dawn, I think, and for me, I've bred oranges, Dawn is almost a template for the kind of orange I want to breed. But she had, beyond just the pure angulation and construction, she had enormous quality. She had that X factor. She was also a very naughty dog, but she was very lucky, as was Elizabeth McLean, her breeder, to have probably the best handler I've ever seen in my life, David Todd, who handled all of these Lynwater cockers and actually put them on the map. The next little piece we're going to do, if you just wait, I thought about moderation, and I've said a little bit about moderation and construction, but actually there's a moderation in movement as well, I think, in a cocker. We talked about function, and this is Dawn doing something that cockers don't do very often in the UK, winning the gun dog group in 1994 at Crufts, and it shows you a lot more than a photo can. But I think it also shows you what moderation means in movement. And just remember, this is the UK almost 25 years ago. YouTube is obviously very busy tonight. That's the thing, it's buffering. Here we go. The other thing I love about this video, if you're looking just beyond the cocker, is the man with the English setter is utterly convinced he's won the Gun Dog Group. And I love watching it, and we know it's Clive Davis, and he's showing the lawn house. And it actually, bit by bit, it dawns on him, sorry about the pun, that he isn't winning. Yeah. Yeah, he's thinking, I've got this English setter that's done all this winning, and there's this guy down here, young chap with a, yeah, we'll humour him, he's got a nice cocker, and then bit by bit he realises that he hasn't won. But if you look at Dawn there, everything you see about Dawn is just natural, unexaggerated, and there she is, there she wins. Things have changed a little bit in the way we show cockers in the UK now. We don't, as yet, run round the ring, but we move probably a little bit more quickly than David did there. But she as a cocker she was covering the ground. If you watched her, I think the movement was effortless. I think if you look at a cocker or any dog, and as they're moving, you see the effort that's going into it. Something's not quite right. You should just see the end product, which is a beautiful movement. That's great, yeah. Do you like her? I know that, yeah. But this was an incredible kennel. And with her eye for horses, she developed a kennel that had this amazing angulation at a time when there were a lot of other very good things. We probably had brilliant rigs and substance, and she took a different approach, and she combined it with fantastic temperament in that kennel, and a lot of us have used Linwater. It stands behind a lot of my own line, and a lovely thing to do. The next dog is from Australia, and we've deliberately used two photos here. I'm looking around, I can't, oh yes, some of the Australians are here. This dog can only be described as remarkable. I actually encountered him, I judged the Australian National in 2006, and the photo on the right, I think, was taken just after the show. So this dog came into the veteran class, and by which point I judged everything, all sexes, and veteran was the last one. And it was one of those moments I'll never forget. As I went over this dog, he's got a lovely head, but then you follow your hands down the dog, and the dog, the whole of the dog is more than the sum of the parts. The individual parts are all correct, but it's the way that one part links to the other that makes this dog truly remarkable. And as I went over this dog, I had goosebumps, and I felt the hairs go up on the back of my neck. Remember, he was almost 13 when I was judging him, and I think the second photo, where he has less coat from the height of his show career, shows you what a remarkable dog he had. As I judged him in veteran, I asked his age, and his owner said to me, he's almost 13, his grandson's in the same class. Can you imagine that in a veteran class? I then judged him, he won the class with something to spare, I then discovered that he'd actually gone best in show at the Australian National on the previous 3 occasions, and they have their national once every 2 years. So you imagine he'd won it at 11, 9 and 7, I guess, if my maths is correct. And yeah, an unbelievable dog. Certainly one of the best dogs I've ever done, but the whole is more than the parts, and it's the way each part is connected. There was just, as you go over this dog, there was just no break. Everything was just put together so well, and there wasn't one part that you said, oh, that's brilliant. It was the whole piece. So yeah, very, very special dog. Now finally, in the US, a little bit of a story I don't really need to introduce this lady, I guess, Hayley, and her connections and co-breeders are here. They should be very proud. But I'll tell you a little bit of story here. I first came to your national in 2004, Colorado. I think I flew in late on the sweepstakes day, and then the next day I just watched the dogs being judged. And I'm pretty sure from memory, you then had a breeder education event. It was a morning event, I think, probably the next day. So I spent my first day getting acclimatized, dealing with the jet lag and looking at a lot of cockers that I have to say I found quite narrow and lacking in rib, a little bit of exaggeration in some points, but that was early days. I hadn't seen all the dogs. I then went over Hayley, who was one of the models at the breeder education event, and I just went over her, and the thing I thought at the time was I could have brought her straight across from England, because everything was just so moderate and exaggerated. The 2 photos, I think, show beautifully how she lasted so well. You know, the outline's the same, she's lasted, and there's nothing about her that is exaggerated. A lovely, moderate neck, beautiful shape, lovely and short. And what the photos don't say, the thing I really loved was the strength of body and the ribs. That a lot of dog in a small package, and she went on and did remarkable things. And for me, she's probably here almost the most moderate of them all, which you should be very proud of. And lovely example. I could give you other examples, but these 3 dogs for me are 3 very special dogs. And I think they depict what moderation is. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Sorry, there's one thing I should say, I forgot at the time. Second dog, Max, Phoenix Fair Star. You've seen a little video of Dawn. If anyone would like to see him, we couldn't embed it in the presentation, but this is actually a DVD that was done of the show. And if anybody has a DVD player or a laptop that will play it, within here there's the veteran class with Max. There's actually the whole show. So pretty much all the Australians that are here this week are starring roles in this DVD. It's from 2006, but it's a lovely watch. So anybody just come and shout if you want to see it. Yeah?
Thank you, Andrew. All right, our next panelist, no stranger to all of us, Karen Roth. Bellflower was born in 1978 when Karen bought a black and white English Cocker that came from Squire and British bloodlines. She didn't even know she was buying an English Cocker. She said she just wanted a Cocker Spaniel because her mother grew up with a solid black Cocker named Dinah. So, her first new puppy, she named Dinah. Wanting to make sure the puppy was livable, unlike her family's Boston Terrier, Karen started obedience classes and ran into Pat Piazza of the Allegra English Cockers, from whom she purchased Sally, Pandora's Allegra Super Sally CD. Karen's first champion was champion Bellflower Carolina Blue, finished in 1984. And I like this quote. This is Karen's quote, because I think it epitomizes what I think good breeders and how they think about breeding, what they do. She says, I've enjoyed successes in the show ring as well as the whelping box, and I have endured heartbreak. All of these are the experiences that have educated me through the years. Karen. By the way, I didn't say in the beginning, we were trying to hold questions until the very end, so all these three have a chance to have enough time to talk, and then we'll open up to questions.
Thank you. I decided to, there's so many dogs that I felt were excellent balance and moderation and type. And the only way I could really wrap my head around this was to go from my own breeder standpoint. So I chose this dog because this was the very first, all of my stuff goes right back from that breeding of Sally to Successor of Sorts. Now I have to be honest with you, I didn't have a clue what I was doing when I chose this dog. I admired his type, I admired his movement. His sire was an import, and I had a mentor that really steered me in the right directions. And I was really lucky that when I used him, I then went on